Hello, Cuesta Cougars. You're listening to KGUR, and for the next hour, I will be your host, Elliot, and these are my sisters, Paige and Tuesday, and we will be talking about Arcane, which is a show that we all enjoy, that I feel personally would be a great thing to talk about. And the first topic we are going to cover is our favorite characters.
Yes, yes, yes.
Which one's yours? Because you already know mine. You already know mine.
Okay, mine's Vi.
Okay, well,
Okay,
Elliot,
bye.
I'm curious. I don't already know yours.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to have to tell us about that.
Well, I think the problem is they're all so well written, and I think for me, I kind of like Vander the most if I had to pick one. I know you're like, oh, no, he said it. Well, okay, because the thing is, I'm not a father, but... No, I know it's a weird thing to start with, but, like, I'm not a father, but I feel like if I were to be a father one day, then I could relate to him in that kind of way. And I think that from the first moment we ever see him, really, he's fighting the Enforcers, and then Vi and Powder's parents are dead, and he takes them under his wing and, like, becomes their surrogate father, and then also he becomes the surrogate father for some of their friends, too.
Yeah, he's very valiant.
Like, he's,
and brave.
I think the thing with him is he's very selfless, and he always does, like, he always does what he needs to do for the people he cares about, and he is willing to, like, do what it takes to take care of them.
Right, that's fair. I mean, Vander is a great character. He's a classic favorite character, I feel like, because he kind of does no wrong in the show, which, I mean, he's not on screen for a lot of it, but what they do tell us about him, it's hard not to like him, so I don't blame you for having him be your favorite.
Yeah, I was thinking of season 1 when I talked about him, too. I know for season 2, I really like his character arc, where, like, he turns from Vander into Warwick.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like with Vander... Paige, you used to main Warwick in the game. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about League of Legends
Let's admit something for a minute. If nobody listening knows, Arcane is actually a TV show that is made in part by Riot, and it's based around the video game League of Legends. I feel like it's a little bit of a controversial game. There's a lot of toxicity on there, but there was a point in my life where I played that game a lot. And I don't know if it's just because Warwick, who is a wolf, is an easy character to play, but I only played him, so having him not be in the first season of the show was fine, but when they kind of introduced Vander as becoming him in the second season, I was very hyped, because that's my guy. That's my guy. We spent a lot of time together. We got close and personal, and it made it even better that he was Vander, because that kind of gave him more heart, I feel like. But let's talk. So Tuesday says her favorite character is Vi, and I want to hear about why.
Okay. It's not just because everyone says she kind of looks like me and that she's beautiful, so, like, I get, like, a big head from that. It's also because she just feels, like, really human. She's, like, a very real person, and you can see how Jinx's trauma affects her, and that gets, like, a pretty big spotlight. But, like, if you look at Vi's character, she's got a lot going on, and that's why in season 2, Jinx is like, who's the crazy one?
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this question, honestly, this morning, because I feel similarly. I feel to Elliot that all the characters are very good, and I feel like a lot of them are, they're rounded characters. They're not flat. I mean, characters like Jinx and Vi, and even Caitlyn, they're both good and bad, which makes it, it makes them human, and it makes it hard to feel any particular way about them, because you'll really like them, and then they'll do some some crazy stuff, and then it's really about the viewer as well, like who you can relate to, whose experience you can relate to. I didn't want to say something. I felt a lot of pressure deciding what character was my favorite. I feel like Jinx is a clear option because she's just so interesting, and they made her they made her awesome. I don't know. Like, they
Yeah.
made her awesome. It's hard not to like when she's on screen. But I actually think one of my favorite characters is Caitlyn because
Me too.
because
Caitlyn.
I like the way that they make her so dynamic. I like that she's easily hateable, but at the same time, you have to think about what she's gone through and, you know, what Jinx did to her family. So it put yourself in her shoes, man. put yourself in her uniform. What would you do? Like,
I feel like something we don't think about as much is how we look at Vi and how after Silco kills in quotes obviously, but kills Vander, her father figure, she vows to kill Silco.
right.
And we kind of see that Jinx kills Caitlyn's mother figure, her actual biological mom, and nobody cut her any slack for wanting to kill Jinx. But, like, that's the
Right.
same thing that Vi did. And, you know, Jinx commits war crimes a lot. So I
Yeah.
feel like Caitlyn gets a lot of hate, but she is
This-
a really good character.
This like storyline that they've chosen on it definitely has like underlayers of class consciousness.
Yeah.
I mean, the upper level and then the lower level, they're completely different worlds, and so it really is. I mean, Caitlyn and then Jinx and Vi are going through very similar experiences, losing their like parental figure, but the way that they handle it is so different just because of like the way they were raised, and obviously Vi and Jinx have a lot more like going on under the surface. So it is really interesting. I love the way that they explored, you know, the differences in how those characters would handle that.
Yeah, and even with Jinx, you see her, she doesn't like the Enforcers because the Enforcers killed her biological parents.
Right.
And that's why she's so mad to see Vi with Caitlyn or to see Vi become an Enforcer because she doesn't like them, just like how Caitlyn doesn't like Jinx.
Right.
And I feel like they really are very human characters. I really like the female representation, like how it's not just like they never made Jinx Echo's love interest, you
Yeah,
know,
not specifically, yeah.
and they never really made Echo Jinx's love interest.
Well-
It was really like they were all their own people.
It's also worth it to mention that, I mean, I don't know if League of Legends specifically does this, but definitely the people who play the game tend to over-sexualize the female characters. And
Yeah.
so there was just absolutely, you know, none of that in the show, which was really refreshing. I mean, even in a lot of TV shows around, you know, video games or just, you know, beloved characters, they tend to do a lot of fan service. And there was, you know, I really appreciated that they just were sticking, you know, this is what the character is and this is what they're going through and we're not going to do.
Well, it's
you know,
also
any of that.
interesting because a lot of the characters are complex, but I think that the female ones too are especially complex. Like, because I never really thought when I first watched the show in season 1 that Jinx was a good person, which is like why it's interesting that you brought her up, because I thought like that. Hey, even though she's a kid, because, you know, she gets her whole, basically almost besides Vi, like her whole family killed, that, like, you know, even though she's a kid, it doesn't really excuse that it happened. And so, like, maybe she might not be a bad person, but, like, that she's a liability. And I really like that there's a complexity to her character and that it, like, actually creates a conversation. I think that's what,
Yeah.
like, that's what's really cool about the characters.
Well, because it's not like, you know, Powder was trying to get her family
Yeah.
killed, so it's really not her fault. I mean, her being a liability that's part of her main insecurity. Like, I don't think it's necessarily if she is or isn't one, it's just that she feels that she is one, and, you know, Vi tells her, you're Jinx, makes her feel that she is, and that's, you know, that's just the catalyst for what she becomes, but she wasn't always going to be that way. I mean, she might have been, like, creative and reckless, but she wasn't, like, trying to become Silco's pet or something. That just happened.
And we see that in the universe that Echo and Heimerdinger are sent to,
Yeah.
where Hextech wasn't invented because the crystals were immediately confiscated after Vi ended up dying in the explosion. So we see what Powder could have become if she stayed powder. And if she never felt like she was a jinx. And even in this world, she still felt like she messed up because she blamed herself for dropping the crystal that killed Vi. But, you know, she still was able to get over that and come to terms with herself because she didn't have Silco being evil in her ear.
Right.
So I really do think a lot of what happened to her was, you know, influenced by Silco.
Right.
And I don't really want to blame her for becoming that.
Right. What's another topic? You have other questions prepared besides
Well,
the
yeah.
Yeah, we can move on.
Another topic was what our favorite episodes are, like either just in general or of season 1 and season 2, and I can go first.
Okay.
For season 1, I know that Tuesday you always have like the season finale. For me, it's always been episode 3. Like I think the thing is episode 3 of season 1 really felt like the finale for me, so that when I watched the actual finale, like episode 3 felt more like the finale, the actual like season finale, than the last episode did. And that's not to say the last episode's not good. They're all really good, but I think it's really like the events, because essentially, you know, what happens is they're trying, like, Vander gets captured and they're trying to save him, and Powder wants to come along, and then, you know, Vi tells her, no, you're too young, you can't come, you might get hurt, and then she gets in the way eventually, she sneaks there, and then it ends up, you know, with all of them but Vi getting killed, and then that segues into, like, the next 3 episodes of the show, where Silco he emotionally manipulated her, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
I would say, like, he was going to kill her, but then emotionally manipulated her when he realized that, like, her relationship now, what it's become with Vi, is now mirroring that of his and Vander's, because, you know, they used to be friends, they got in a fight, and, like, now, you know, he's evil, Vander's trying to do his thing, and so, I mean, it's kind of what it is. So, like, I think the episode, there's just so much, like, emotion, and, like, there's everything in the show that makes it great is in that episode. Like, there's great music, there's great writing, the characters are amazing. And so that's why that's my favorite episode of season 1.
I really like Jinx's theme in that episode. Just the voices. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so. Oh yeah, and you guys even you mentioned it too. There's the scene, you know, where she Vi hits her because she's angry and like calls her a Jinx. Like that's really sad.
It is.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Oh, guys, not gonna lie, that part was kind of sad.
Well, no, I'm just saying that I feel like for me, when I guess for the first time I was watching the show, like that's one of the moments that really like made it, like, the show really, like, I think, stick out for me, that like this is going to be like an actual emotional, like, good show.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just a show. Like, it's like, I don't know how to say it. Like, it's like something that's actually real. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Like something that creates real emotions.
I think the art style in general, honestly, is just an indicator that it's a show that has a lot of passion put into it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's as soon as you see that, it's like, you know that the show is going to be really good, which might not always be to be expected by something made off of a video game, especially one that's so old. Like, you know.
I know. I think it took like 6 years to make the first season too.
Yeah.
That's what like they say.
I mean, I personally, I don't keep tabs on what episode things happen when I watch TV. So I don't know if I could give a favorite episode. Like, I think I could only give moments that really stood out to me. And I really liked the way that they made Victor, you know, in the second season, how Victor was almost like a religious figure or like a godlike figure, seriously, to the people, what is the world called below? The
There's
underworld.
Piltover and Zahn, right?
Zahn, right,
Yeah,
of course. So he's like almost like a Jesus figure to Zahn. And I think it was really interesting to show that because it really plays on your emotions. I mean, he's technically healing these people of their addictions to Shimmer and of their like life down there that is just terrible and is terrible because of people from Piltover.
Yeah.
But then, what he's making them into isn't much, you're so suspicious of what it's going to become and what his motives are and if it's even like Victor anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that was really fun to watch, honestly.
I
It was
think it
just
was-
great to watch.
It's interesting.
I actually picked Victor for our next topic, which was favorite villain. Because I really think not much about him changed the whole show, and let me explain that. His motive behind like being alive and doing what he's doing was always the same.
Yeah.
And that was to save people and to end death, right? And a lot of that was because he wanted to save himself, but he's also from Zon, and he sees what happens down there, and how a lot of people are like him, and they're sick from the fissures that only exist in Zon. The fissures aren't up in Piltover.
Right.
So he basically, he wants to help people, and even when he is one with the Arcane, he is still trying to help people. He was basically detaching these people from their bodies and bringing them into this like soul realm that he was in,
Right.
because he believed that this would end death and it would, make everyone happier and save everyone.
Yeah.
And yes, it was the Arcane tricking him so it could like control mankind, but I do think he was still somewhere in there and that his intentions were still showing through.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's interesting about his character is, like I said, he's not necessarily just evil like Silco might be. And I like that it's not just black, even though he's kind of the villain, like season 2, it's not just black and white where it's like, oh, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. There's, like I said, there's complexity to it. There's, like, gray area. And so I think it was really fun to see, like, how it all turned out, how the show ended. And I think it's funny, too, that you, like, mentioned Victor, because I know that when season 2, like, was, like, as the episodes were coming out, there was people, like, making a bunch of, like, Hex Jesus jokes, that he's, like, he's, like, Jesus of, like, Hexcore. And it's funny, because, like, at first, I thought that, because I think I saw those jokes before I, saw, like, episodes 4, 5, and 6, the second act of season 2. And I think it's funny because I didn't really know, like, what they were referring to. I thought it was just, like, something people made. And then, like, after I got the context, I realized that it's because, like, he basically became Jesus. So I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
They're
character
definitely pulling.
development,
I mean,
like-
they are pulling parallels for sure.
Yeah.
He was just supposed to be like a messiah. I think. He was
Yeah.
like a he was just a prophet, honestly, to them. I mean, and okay, I have a question that I actually want to ask you guys. I just thought of this question. I can't even remember her name. But,
Maddie?
Maddie.
no, not Maddie.
Okay.
The little girl
Oh,
that
Don't.
Isha?
Isha.
Oh.
What do we think about her inclusion? Do we think that Isha was put into the show to humanize Jinx?
Okay,
Or
yeah.
why exactly was her inclusion
That's a great
put
like-
into the show?
Yeah, that's a great topic. I know for me personally, I saw, like, I thought it too, and then I looked it up because I was wondering, like, what other people were thinking. And I think that the reason why the writers brought her in was to, like, humanize Jinx. And I think kind of, like, mirror, like, Jinx, like, basically say, like, this is, like, a young Jinx, and, like, humanize her in the sense that she has, like, someone to, like, that actually cares about her, that, like, wants to be her, which is something we didn't see in season 1, because, like, she was always told, like, you're too, young, you're too weak, whatever. And now she has to actually, like, take care of someone for once, unless she has someone on her side.
Yeah,
Like-
that's true. Yeah.
And it's also, I feel like Isha was a really, really, really important character for the finale, even though she was not a part of that.
Yeah.
Why do you
No.
think that?
Because, if you remember, even though Isha cannot speak, she still communicated to Jinx that she thought Jinx was a hero. And the way they met is Jinx saved her life.
Right.
Right? And so Isha always looked up to Jinx as this big hero.
Right.
And you'll hear in the finale, Jinx will say, "Here's your big hero," or something along those
Right.
lines. I'm
Right.
paraphrasing, but and that's what I think Echo was talking about when he spoke to Jinx before the finale. When he said, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was about, you know, someone worth doing good stuff for.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't think she was thinking of Vi in that moment. I really, really, really think she was thinking of Isha.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when she comes in, you know, the blimp has the bunny ears. And,
Right.
Yeah.
it's like made to represent Isha, and she talks about being a hero. She wants to be the hero that Isha always saw her as.
Right.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely agree, because up until then, Jinx is like alone, and I mean, her own sister won't even speak to her. You know, they have such a so much tension in their relationship, and she's been, I mean, by her own family, she's been told, you know, basically just you're worthless, and like you're the problem. And so it must have just really been evidence to her and to her character that there were still good things within her, that a child wanted to take after her. And I almost feel like maybe it could have been a little bit of a mirror to her own experience, because she was basically abandoned when she was like a kid and taken over by Silco, and there was just a lot of negative stuff that happened to her. And she also lost, her parents, and then she lost Vander. So I think Isha's like an orphan. So to take Isha in and to kind of, I don't know if she was trying to be like a good parent or necessarily, but like
I think
to
it
be,
was a good sister.
yeah,
Yeah.
to be a friend and to be supportive and to like, yeah, just have company in that life is like, it must have just been probably healing for her and her character, so that she could make the decision she made in the end. Yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned like Silco, and you both were talking about Victor. Like, if you want, we could talk about like our favorite villains.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, Tuesday
Yeah.
says hers is Victor. I mean, I think that, is her name Ambrosia? Is that her name?
or-
I think
No.
no.
Wait, what? No.
What is her
Please-
name?
Please
Mbessa?
don't say she's your favorite.
I was
Mbessa?
gonna say
Yeah.
she's the worst.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say she's actually the worst.
Her name is Mbessa.
Mbessa.
Mbessa Madarda.
I think that
And
she's.
I call her Mbessa Fart.
Oh,
Well, I
yeah.
said favorite, not least
See,
favorite.
I think maybe the reason that she doesn't work as well as villains like Victor, or even you could argue like Jinx or Caitlyn, is just because she doesn't have a lot of dynamic to her. She's just generally like evil, like for no reason. I mean, even Silco has his backstory with Vander and everything that makes you kind of feel like, oh, maybe if this hadn't happened, he wouldn't be so messed up. But like,
As we see in the other world,
Right.
they actually were able to become friends again.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I think she's the only villain that wasn't given so much of that, so it just makes her generally unlikable.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't really like that. I guess there was a little bit. There wasn't really like too much depth to her character, and I think that's why my favorite is Silco. Like, it's because there is depth to his character, because like they gave us his backstory, they explained his motivations and like what led him there. But I also think like what's really cool is that, like I mentioned earlier, there's like the relationships between I think after episode 3 too, between Jinx and Vi, and then Silco and Vander are kind of like, they become mirrored, where they used to get along, be friends, and then stuff happened between them, and then now they're kind of fighting against each other. And I think what's like, yeah, you said it, what's really interesting is in season 2, because I didn't know that would be a thing, but in that episode where I think Echo was in like the alternate dimension, they revealed that there was a note or like letter that Vander had written before he died, that
to Silco.
to Silco, and if Silco had found it, then none of that would have happened, and they would have gotten over it. I think that's like really powerful.
I feel like I agree. I I actually can't. It's hard to decide between Silco and Victor. I mean, they're like
Yeah.
the biggest antagonists.
Yeah.
I feel like in the show, which is weird because Jinx is doing a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But we're like kind
Jinx
of
gets
made.
a pass.
She's
We're
not a
made,
nuke.
we're made to like be on her side. I think
Shooting
little
a
bit.
missile
Yeah.
is not that bad, guys.
Right.
Okay, but at the
obviously.
council.
It didn't kill that many people.
Oh my god, it was only like what? Who cares? Like, eat the
No,
rich,
but it's the
right?
council. Like, they were innocent.
The
I
only
mean,
person I remember dying was like Caitlyn's mom. That's like
Right.
one person.
And not that gold robot dude though.
Well, because there was the other
Like-
there was the other ones, yeah, that were kind of like just side characters. So it didn't hit as hard, but yeah.
We're not actually debating that Jinx should have done. That was not a good. That was a crazy decision on her part, and
No, yeah.
but
yeah.
I think Victor might be my favorite villain. Not
Yeah.
exactly for the same reasons as Tuesday mentioned earlier, but I think just because he was almost. I mean, he was just a vessel for. It's not even really him.
Mm-hmm.
It's really the Arcane that like becomes the villain. I mean, throughout the whole show. Heimerdinger is warning Jason Victor that this magic is very dangerous, and I don't even know if as an average viewer I even really understand like what the Arcane is and where it comes from. So it's kind of just this unknown force that begins as something chill with like Hextech, and then once Victor is absorbed into it, I mean, it becomes clear that you can take an average or like even a good person and make them evil with this amount of power. And it's even debatable, like we were talking about, whether Victor's actions are evil, if he's trying to be evil, or if he's just, this is the way that the magic works. Like, it is so powerful, it destroys human life, and objectively that's evil to humans and like other animals, but like, is it, is he really trying to help them, which he believes he is.
Yeah.
So it really just shows that, I mean, Victor is literally just the one that fell into the Arcane, like got absorbed by it. And if it had been someone like Ambessa, maybe it would have been more outright evil. But, I thought it was so interesting, what he was doing and the way that he and Jace kind of show down at the end in their conversation, where Jace is like, man, like, why are you doing, like, why are you doing this? This is, like, not what we were planning on doing. And it was just, it made a really great kind of plot, I think, on the side of everything else that's going on. Not that it was on the side, but there's a lot going on. So whenever you return to that, you're like, oh, right, this is, a huge threat to everything else in the show.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people watch the show and don't understand why Silco was doing what he was doing. He was doing it because he wanted Zahn to be independent from Piltover.
Right.
That was always his goal, and Vander said that would cause too much violence, which is why they got into their big fight.
Right.
And I really think that's why Savika stayed with Silco for so long, was because her entire goal was to separate from Piltover.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And she always stayed loyal to that goal, except for in the end, when she was actually invited to be a counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that just the state of their, the feud between Zahn and Piltover is just so strong. And when we start the show, they've just been it's just years of, like, discrimination and separation between each other. And, like, it's, so by the end, because, I mean, the show blends them. I mean, they're working together. Like, Caitlyn and Vi are probably just the perfect example. They're, metaphorically showing that by the time the show is over, someone like her can join the council. Someone from Zahn can be on the council, and it's a little more equal. I don't know. Is it really equal? I don't know. But
I'm pretty sure that Caitlyn and Vi just, like, leave after the finale, and I don't think they planned on coming back. Like, I think they just left.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I would too, man. I'd be over that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm over this. This sucks. You could, like, literally, what is this life that we're living?
Well, so you talked about Silco. Like, do you think that, like, Victor and Silco are great villains, or, like, is there one that you like more?
I think they're both really good,
Okay.
but I like Victor more.
Yeah.
Victor just starts as a kind of a good person, so it's easier morally to like him more, I think. Than,
Yeah, I think the thing I didn't like about Silco was that
the animal abuse.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, actually,
Like,
that.
And the drug thing. That wasn't very
Definitely
good
dispersing
of him.
the shimmers is quite evil. I
Yeah,
think. I mean, I don't really know how that helps anyone. Like,
I would say that was really bad for society.
hot take here, but I don't think that the drug lord was actually doing that good.
Yeah, I feel like Victor, he was coming from a good place and was just like being controlled by an evil force. Silka was just like dealing, and I didn't really like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, for why Silco is my favorite is like I like villains that are like just evil, and then seeing like how over time the good guys can put a stop to them if they can. But I do think Victor's arc is really interesting because like you have been saying, he goes from being literally just a normal guy who just wants to create magic, do his thing, to becoming a vessel and like basically being taken over by, I guess you could say, like a parasite to do bad things. And so it's not actually him really like himself doing it. It's like the entity using his body to do it. So it's the entity doing it
He's
through
just
him.
a guy.
And
That's
so
just a guy.
I think that concept is like really interesting because we see that like in other movies or TV shows. But the only one I can really think of is like Venom, and so I think it's really cool that there's one that like this where it's literally just a person. It's not like some superhero thing. I think it's really interesting to think about like there's this divine entity that can just like overtake someone and then make them like become bad or do bad things, because I feel like that kind of reflects society where there's that idea that you might have heard like in a class or something that I guess a good person, like if a good person is given the right things, like the right, I guess, materials, like they could become a bad person.
Like nurture versus nature.
Yeah, and I feel like they kind of like explore that idea through his character. Like
that. I mean, the whole show is nurture versus nature. I mean,
Exactly.
that's literally what it's about, and it's it's easy to be on the outside and to be like, oh, if they had just like done this thing differently, like maybe everything would be fine. But when you're in the moment, when you're losing your family, when you're literally in like a class war, like it's, I mean, you're gonna do some stuff that you might not normally do, and it really explores trauma and how that affects you. And I think it just asks, it's kind of like a really exaggerated version of just like the way that we live our everyday lives, and it like asks you to probably just consider like the way you treat other people, and like the motivations behind why someone might not be treating other people well. I don't know. It's really just a whole moral question in that show.
Yeah. Like, I think what was cool is a lot of it is about nurture and how nurture affects people. But I feel like Caitlyn's arc was kind of also nature. And, like, her empathy really was just a part of her. Because she was given everything and told so much. These Undercity people are evil, they're dangerous. And she lets Vi out of prison in like 2 minutes.
Right. She's cool with it.
I also think what's interesting about Caitlyn too is like I remember in the first season, I used to like make fun of her because I thought that she like casually because I thought that she didn't seem like she kind of complimented Vi's character, because there's that scene and specifically where for example like Vi and her are like jumping from building to building, and Vi's like doing it because that's what she does. No, I know you already know, that's what she does. And and then Caitlyn's over there like taking her sweet time, and it's funny because I feel like her character arc was really cool. I mean, they all were. The writers definitely knew what they were doing. They had plans like to make a season 2 before it was made.
Which
it's
is
obvious.
Great. Perfect.
Yeah, and that's why the show is so good. And I think that in terms of Caitlyn's arc, it was really cool to see like by the end of the show to go from like thinking like what is she gonna do, like what is she capable of. By the end of the show, she literally does what everyone said they would do, but probably wouldn't do if they actually were in her shoes, which was, she, because her mom was like I think the top enforcer, right? Basically, she became that, and then tried, right? Didn't she become the head and try to like go after Jinx?
Basically, the sheriff was Marcus.
Oh, wait, that's right. Well, and she was like
And
the second in command, right?
Jinx killed Marcus.
Yeah.
Right.
And Caitlyn knew about Jinx before everyone else.
Okay.
And so she was like, oh yeah, well, I'm next in line basically because Kiramin.
Well,
Well, but-
yeah.
That
You
is
know,
kind of what she
Caitlyn-
did with the Kiramin key, though.
I'm just
Caitlyn,
saying,
like,
like,
Caitlyn
yeah.
is kind of almost. She's not exactly an audience insert, but she is like kind of on the outside of the sisters and all the villains, everyone else. She's like sort of from a world that I think is more similar to ours than Zahn is.
Yeah.
So it's like to see her go through her arc, being so angry, and to being able to forgive Vi, being able to like understand Jinx a little bit, and like in the end reach be able to be with Vi is that's real. She's a particularly just cool character. That's why she's my favorite.
Something.
And I could talk about this all day, you guys, but I do have a class after this that I have to go to.
Yeah.
One of the characters I feel like we all kind of passed over because he is annoying. Is Jace.
Actually, it's good. It's actually good that you brought that up because I was wanting to maybe talk about. We can talk about him in general, but I was also wanting to talk about too at some point the whole like thing with episode 6. I know that when that like dropped and it was going mainstream and more people were watching the episode. Then there was like a conversation that came up that I saw like online. There's a whole debate over it of like was before, because this was before Act 3 came out, so we didn't know for sure. Like there's people saying like I think he was justified in trying to kill Victor, which then as a result of that killed all the or like reversed the magic that healed all the people that he healed. And so there's a lot of people who are arguing like, was Jace justified in coming back to kill like his physical form, like Victor's physical form, or was it not justified because of like the consequences of doing that? And we could talk about that because I think that's an interesting concept. But,
Oh, you gotta go?
I do have to go. I have to
okay.
go. I don't. You guys can keep talking about it. I have to sign out though.
Yeah, it's okay.
How long should we go?
Well, just for like an hour.
Okay,
you
chill.
can head out.
Peace out, Cougars. Watch the show. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, with Jace, I think what I focus on more with his character is really I really like his relationship with Stillwater. Hear me out. Okay. And his relationship with Vi specifically.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
And it only really makes sense when you actually read the council archives.
Ooh, I haven't. Yeah, I should read that.
There's the Warden write-ups in the council archives. It's online on Google. And basically, all of the Warden write-ups are about Vi.
They're all about Vi?
Yeah, because she's every time someone that knows Silco comes in, she beats the living doo-doo out of them. And so, yeah. So Jace had read that. Because if you remember, what counselor let Vi out of Stillwater? Because Caitlyn didn't have the authority to let Vi out of Stillwater. She got a document signed by Counselor Talus, which is Jace. And so that means he most likely read over Vi's, court documents in which he would have seen that she had no trial. There was no reason stated for her arrest. She was underage. She was, probably about 16 when she got arrested. There's Warden write-ups of her being the problem child, referring to the fact that she is a child. And so Jace most likely looked at that, just being like, why did they put a child in prison for no reason? And, yes, she caused a lot of trouble in prison, but I feel like a lot of the reason he did allow her to be released is because, she was in there for no reason. And, and that's why after he brutally murders that child, that one time, he looks up at all of the Shimmer company workers, right? The Shimmer factory workers. And he specifically zeroes in on the kids. And it's specifically the kids that are about to be arrested. And he definitely remembers what his little partner during this this attack was saying earlier, which is, you know, do you know what being thrown in a metal box does to someone, and, you know, talking about how horrible it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a moment where Jace really, like, reflected on the fact that he just did what he did. You know, a child died because of him.
Yeah.
And now all of these children are going to be arrested and sent to Stillwater as children. And yes, technically they broke the law, but why are there that many children working in a shimmer factory? It is because of his actions. Him and the council, their inability to do anything for the people in Zon. He's looking at them and saying, you are going to prison because of me. Because of my friends in the council. Because I didn't do anything to get you guys, like, social services or, like, any sort of funding so that you didn't have to work in a shimmer factory as little kids. Because some of the kids, they look to be, like, 9 years old. You know, they had, like, their little baby faces. They were about the age of Powder when we see her in season 1.
I mean, it's interesting because if that were to, like, if the world in Arcane were to be our world, in most places at least, that would be listed as child labor. And so, like, it's crazy to think about, but...
The people in Zon have no choice, though. As soon as they can start working, they start working. And we see that with Vi and Powder and Echo and Clagger and Milo. They are all working. Most of them thieves. Echo is working for Benzo's shop. And, you know, that's just what they have to do. Because they have no other choice. It's either steal or work or die of starvation and hypothermia.
You mentioned, like, Vi and Jace's relationship. I think what's really cool, too, is, like, all the fight scenes where they're together. Especially towards the end. I remember there's that one, I think, where Vi has, like, her gauntlets on her arms, and then Jace has this, like, hammer with, like, the Hextech ball on it or something, right?
Hex core.
Hex core. I knew it was Hex something.
Is that the Hex core?
I think so.
Yeah, Hex Gem.
Oh, Hex, yeah, that's it. I knew it was Hex something, but I think, like, you know, those scenes of, like, saying basically, you know, these characters are working together now, like, I think it's really cool, and, like, it obviously looks cool, but I think it also shows that he, while sometimes, in terms of Jace's characters, sometimes he does do questionable things, that for the most part he does try to do the right thing. I think his thing is he always tries to do the right thing, but sometimes, like, what he thinks is the right thing, or, like, maybe what a divine intervention makes him think is the right thing, like, either comes with consequences or isn't necessarily the right thing. And so I think it's interesting to see, like, how his choices have consequences on everyone around him and how it plays out.
Everyone's choices in that show has so many consequences for everyone else. Like, you know, the whole finale in season 1, you know, Jinx shoots the missile, which negatively affects Caitlyn, which ends up negatively affecting Vi, which ends up negatively affecting Jinx. And it's just, like, this whole mess. And then Caitlyn's pain from that one event ends up negatively affecting everyone in Zon when she goes on her, like, dictator arc. I also kind of want to touch on Echo. I feel like he's a really, really good character. And, you know, in season 1, we didn't get to see him that much, but he really was, like, the little rebel.
He was, actually, yeah.
And I think he had a lot of, like, I'd be friends with him. He had a lot of charisma and, like, passion.
Oh, especially in season 2, like, I would say his arc, or, like, you know, the person he starts to become in season 2, he's cool. Because I know that some of the characters have, like, special abilities. I know for his, something they started exploring, or they did explore in season 2, was his ability to go, not necessarily time travel, but fly time back a couple seconds. And that comes into play in, you know, the final battle that saves all the main characters that are still alive. And I think it's really cool that they gave him that ability, because, I mean, because I haven't played the game, I assume that he has some sort of time ability in the game. So I
Yeah,
think that
4 seconds.
yeah, I think that it was cool to introduce that into the show, and I think the way they did it in the show and like blending it with like the main story and finding a way to bring it in was really cool. And I think that Echo's character is interesting because I know it's not really that big of a deal, but I still think it's interesting in terms of his relationship with Powder, at least in an alternate dimension. I think it's interesting that the writers kind of touched on the fact that at some point in time or like in some alternate dimension, maybe they could be lovers, but like they're not necessarily. It's not like a thing where it's like, hey, I'm your boyfriend, you're my girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really cool that like they can just be friends, or like where that option can be there, but like they care so much about each other that like it doesn't have to be this like, big romantic thing.
I like that he doesn't try to turn Jinx into Powder.
Yeah.
He knows that's not going to happen. He knows that's not going to work. And even when he finally gets to see what Powder could have become, and he realizes, like, I love this woman.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, no, I think
he doesn't try to make Jinx that woman.
Mm-hmm.
He comes and says, let's go save the world, not let's change you
I know,
so
I think
that you'll be better.
I think it's a powerful message too, like that he sees in the altered dimension like what the entire dimension could have been, like what everything could have been if it just went differently slightly. And I feel like it's really powerful to like show that he sees that, but he still cares so much about the people like that he like the dimension he's familiar with, that he's from. He cares so much about those people that he would rather, because I forget, could he stay like in that dimension, the one that he like traveled to, or like did he have to leave eventually?
Heimerdinger stayed.
Oh yeah, because I would say like I think it's really powerful that he had the choice to stay, and like everything that he probably ever wished for was there. Like everyone was happy. The woman of his dreams appears to like him back or like want him. So I think it's really powerful to show that he had basically everything he ever could have wanted in that alternate dimension, and he still had the courage to back out and then go save the people in his actual dimension.
He was always, as Jinx said,
Yeah.
the boy savior.
Yeah.
Because he was always, his only purpose in life was to help people, because everyone around him kept dying.
No, I know, and I was
Like,
just gonna say too. What's really crazy is like I remember, because I think I've only seen like the second season like one way through, so like I remember most of the stuff, the important things, but I remember it's a little blurred. I know there's one scene where I believe a couple of the main characters would have died if he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Like they all would have just been wiped out by Victor, because he was still, or at least like the Arcane using Victor. It was, I believe the scene was like he had these robots that he created that were trying to I guess possess the people and like take over the world. The thing was, Echo came flying in, I think on like his like glider thing,
his hoverboard.
or hoverboard, yeah, and like used his like going back 4 seconds, like power to literally partly save the day. Like I think that there are characters that probably could have met their end if he wasn't there, and so yeah, he is the boy savior. Like he's
I have a question.
like yeah, it's cool, but yeah.
Do you think Echo would still be a cool character if his hoverboard was like a 2016 like hoverboard? Do you know what I'm talking about? The one with the two
yeah, so like
wheels?
do you mean like it wouldn't hover, like it wouldn't fly over the ground?
Yeah, it was like a 2016 hoverboard.
Here's the
and
thing.
it was like Apple brand.
Yeah, no, here's the thing, okay. I think that it being like an actual like hovering over the ground hoverboard, I think that's what makes it like cool, because it's like, oh, he's there, he's coming flying in to save the day. But like if it was an actual just hoverboard that like we know, I feel like for me at least, because I can't speak for anyone else, for me I feel like it would be more comical than serious, because like if there's a scene where like a lot of the characters are dying and then you're like, oh, where's Echo, and then the next scene, like the next shot in the scene is literally just him zooming in on like a hoverboard, like into like the midst of battle, I feel like I would probably like laugh more than be like, yo, let's go, like he's gonna help us. So I mean, not that it's bad, it's just I feel like it would be more funny than like serious. I feel like it would take away from the moment of like, hey, he's like saving everyone
Yeah.
or like saving some people.
These are the
But
really juicy details
I feel
that
like it'd
people
be
want to
funny.
know.
Oh, you want to know another topic I got is the whole like thing, not with this character in terms of like, you know, was he justified, but the whole thing with Jace, there's a whole debate also of him like, is he cringy?
He would own
Like-
he would own a Tesla and Yeezys and like
Yeah.
wear sunglasses everywhere.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's funny because even though like I like Jace, because I like pretty much all the characters, even like the villains, I think the funny thing with Jace specifically is the reason why I think people talk about him is like he's like the golden boy of the show.
Yeah.
He's like supposed to be like, you know, this like like really strong, buff, like I guess maybe like physically attractive guy that has all these ambitions. He's like supposed to be like, you know, the character that's like the one that everyone wants like to talk to or like be friends with or like
He's the face of Hextech.
yeah, like he's
Even though Victor helped him create
Yeah.
it, Victor was the reason he was alive.
yeah, and I was gonna say too, yeah,
And he is the face of the company instead of Victor.
yeah. The thing that in terms of like his character, I think what's like not really cringy, but like kind of funny about his character is like because he's supposed to be this like, you know, like nonchalant, like I do everything well kind of guy. There are some scenes where like I think he kind of just like looks like he just like sits there or like stands there, and then I feel like the writers are kind of trying to make me, or like they left it up to the viewer to maybe like look at him in like a way that's like, oh, he's cool, because it looked like he was trying to like smolder.
No, he does
Like-
do that.
He kind of, there's scenes where he just like he's like, I want to, you know, do magic, and then there's like a zoom in on his face and he's just like staring, and I'm like I, you know, I don't really know, like I don't know what the purpose of that is, but so like I can see it that some people think he's like cringy or like kind of weird or quirky, but
He's a lot for me to process, honestly. Like, he really, I would hate him if he was a real person.
what's funny is
But like, I feel like I'd
or
be
you can
friends
go, yeah.
with him if I was from Piltover.
Yeah, no, I think the funny thing is like he's like a good, decent person, like decent at least. I would say he's like pretty good. The funny thing is, he seems like the kind of he has that vibe though. Like no matter what, like you can say, you know, you like him or whatever, you can say you don't like him or like him. I think something we can universally agree on is he has that vibe of being a conservative. Like
Okay, no politics, Elliot.
okay, sorry. Well, like what I
He
mean.
has the vibe
well,
of
like-
Elon Musk, I think is what you're trying to say.
Well, yeah,
and I
like-
think it's because he looks like Elon Musk, and that's why you're saying it.
I mean,
He kinda
I don't know.
does.
I mean,
Like, if he was older. Like, and like,
yeah. I
weird
mean,
looking.
I guess
That's not political. Elon
Well-
Musk is allowed to be
Well,
weird
no. I
looking.
guess like to like maybe like make it more like broad. I think he's the kind of person that seems like he would own like a big truck to like drive
He would
around
own a
in,
huge
like
truck.
to drive around in like without a muffler, to be like, hey, look at me, like I'm so cool, you know, I'm buff. Like I feel like he's like he gives off that vibe.
His truck
like-
would be so incredibly large. Like, it would be something that would not be allowed in like European countries because it's like it wouldn't be street legal in
Yeah.
most countries.
I feel like he'd be the kind of person to put like literally like instead of buying a monster truck, he would just buy like a regular truck and then buy like the wheels separately, put the huge wheels on this truck to make it like appear bigger, to be like, oh, look at me, like I'm so, you know, I'm so cool. Like I feel like he'd be that kind of person too, to like drive down in like a car with like windows down, blasting like some random like obnoxious music with like sunglasses on, and then
He
like
would always wear
and then like
sunglasses.
stop at like the, you know, stop when he doesn't even need to and be like, hey, look at me, like to random other people, and they're just like, what is going on?
Like, he'd really want everyone to see his truck.
Yeah.
And it'd have like it would have the purple LED lights on the bottom.
I will say, in terms of his character though, like I did really admire his like passion for creating magic though, because I feel like the good part about him being like the golden boy is I feel like if he didn't exist, like if Jace just was not a character, then there wouldn't have been that plot line. Like I think
Yeah.
like well okay, no, don't laugh at me.
Because he low-key
Like-
started the end of the world.
I mean, yeah, but I'm saying like I don't feel like anyone else, like any other characters, really would have like done what he did and came along and said like, hey, like to the council, like, hey, I want to create magic, because I feel like he might have been aware of like the risks. He might have not known exactly what they were. Like, oh no, the world's gonna end. Because I mean, they revealed that in season 2, so I assume that they when they reveal it to the audience, they reveal it to the characters as well. So I think he was aware that something bad could have happened, but he was willing to take the risk to create magic, and that's the interesting thing. Victor, I remember, because it's been a long time since I've watched season 1, but I remember I think Victor was the one that created it, and then he kind of just like became the face. Like he was the one that.
No.
Well, I mean, maybe they created it together, right? But
Victor gave him the opportunity to create it by still being a part of the school, and especially being a staff member of the school.
Oh yeah, because he was almost kicked out.
No, he was kicked out.
Oh, was kicked out. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why he was going to not do good thing to himself, but Victor, saved him, gave him this opportunity, and was like, yo, like, I can help you, I want to be a part of this. And Victor put equally as much work into it. He just used the previous research that Jace had done.
Because he takes his book, and I think what's, like he looks at it, I think what's interesting is that Victor, if I remember correctly, he actually, because originally Jace wanted him, because there was that like press conference where he like talked, he was supposed to talk about the magic, but he chose not to. But that's beside the point. I think the point here is, I think what's interesting is, if I remember correctly, he offered Victor to come up on the stage with him, and then Victor refused, like he willingly refused it,
because nobody would accept Jace if Victor was also on that stage.
I just think it's like sad that like I guess even though like it wasn't, I mean, like you said, it wasn't really fully like Victor created this, but I feel like he was a big part in creating like the Hex tech. And so the fact that eventually when the word got out of like, hey, there's magic, there's like, this is what Jace's been working on, I feel like it's interesting how Jace still like was the face of it. Like he was the one that got the recognition, while Victor also did all this stuff in the sidelines, and he never really like was given, like no one really knew, he wasn't really given like the recognition of like doing it. I think that's interesting.
I think a lot of that is actually more, a part of it is on Victor, and I think it is because he knows that he is still a Zonite.
Yeah.
In the end, he is still from Zon, and nobody will respect Jace if he's with him, because nobody will respect Victor.
Yeah.
And so if Victor is associated too closely with Jace, and this Undercity Zon person who's sick because of the fissures is up on stage with our golden boy, then maybe our golden boy isn't our golden boy,
Yeah. And I mean, I really, going back to like talking about Victor's character, I really like how he went from, I mean, it sounds weird, but like a guy with a cane who like helped Jace create magic. I think that like actually do it, because they had ideas, but they actually like implement them. I think what's interesting is seeing his arc and like go from a guy who also has ambitions, who maybe is like lesser fortunate, to being this character that has been possessed and has been used as like a vessel by some divine entity, and is given like all these powers that come with it. I think that it's really interesting to see like how the whole time in the beginning of the show, these two characters wanted to create magic, and then now like we actually see it, like it's here, and then we can now see the consequences, and it makes all the scenes of Heimerdinger, or even you could even argue Mel, like saying that magic is dangerous. I know that she argued actually, like she secretly wanted them. Yeah, I think originally she was against it, and I think it's really interesting to see like to like remember, like go back and look at all these scenes where the characters that are familiar with magic or have seen it firsthand like affect people badly, they say like hey, it's dangerous, you don't know what you're messing with. And then it's cool to see that like in season 2, it's cool to see that we actually see how that could play out, and like we see it happen firsthand. And so first of all, like it gives season 1 and the show in general like rewatchability, which is great, but it also creates like a cool kind of like, I guess, butterfly effect with like them literally saying like this would happen, and then we actually see it happen. I think it's cool.
Yeah. I think a big moment that felt like yeah, we'll go out. We're almost done. Real quick, a big moment that felt like a snowball moment, right? Was actually Mel's brother dying.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Because you'll see in the beginning with Ambessa, you know, she's talking about how you have to kill, right? You have to be at war and you have to fight. And Mel says, well, my brother said that I don't have to fight. And my brother said that that's good to be peaceful, right? And now we're seeing later in the future when Mel is being asked to make hex tech weapons, she doesn't want to, and then she finds out her brother's dead. Her brother, who told her it was okay to be peaceful and it was good to be peaceful. And now she's realizing, maybe my mom was right. Maybe peace isn't what I should shoot for because that's how my brother died. And so what if I die? Or what if my mom dies, right? And yeah, I think that might be an hour.
Yeah. This is KGUR. You've been listening to a 1-hour talk show of Arcane. I'm your host, Elliot, and you are listening to both my sisters, Paige and Tuesday. And I'll wrap it up for this hour. If you want me to come back another time, just let me know. Hit me up.
No contact information needed. Just hit us up.